Welcome to Love and Money with Barbara Treadwell, where we explore the deep connection between our money and the people we love. Hello there, it's Love and Money with Barbara Treadwell, and we have a very special guest today. Jamie Haro and I met 7 years ago. We were doing a spiritual program that lasted for 10 weeks over the summer of 2019. And the next year in 2020, we discovered we were at the same pilgrimage in India, and then we were back again this year for another one. Jamie is a high-performance coach and a healer, and you cannot know Jamie without knowing about Rudy. And Rudy, you can see behind her in the collar and the tie. That was his outfit that he chose for this for this session today. Is a tiny Yorkshire Terrier. He's 13 years old. And he's got a personality larger than life and his own wardrobe. He's a deity size 10. And he's a very, very special guy. But more than his personality, what Jamie is going to talk about a lot today is the way he responds to energy and prayer and healing practices and the emotional environment that is around him. I've watched videos of him, and we're going to figure out how to mix that into the episode so you can see what I'm talking about. You've heard me say that I'm the only planner I know that has a line item on the cash flow worksheet for pets, but I know that it's a very big item in many families' budget, and Rudy has his own budget. He has holistic treatments and medical care and travel, and beyond the fact that he is a beloved pet, it's just so much more than being about a dog. Mm-hmm. So it's about the quiet bonds that shape us during our lifetime and the companions who are present for all of our personal reinventions and changes. He's the one that stays behind Jamie through grief and uncertainty and reinvention and healing. And sometimes he saves us in a way that we cannot even explain.
Right.
Rudy just celebrated his 13th birthday. And Jamie wasn't sure. There was a time she wasn't sure that he would be here to celebrate this. But in fact, Jamie and Rudy have been selected by Who Saved Who, which is an organization about pets and their owners, and they're in a gallery exhibition in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. So, Jamie, thank you so much for coming. It means the world to me, and I know that this is going to be a very special episode. I've been looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much for having us. This is truly special for us as well, and Rudy's really excited. I was prepared to kind of say, please excuse us. He's going to be a little quieter than usual, just opinionated, but as soon as the podcast started, he just, he's ready.
He's paying attention. I know he understands. I can tell.
I can tell. Teenage era, so he's, was expecting some moodiness, but
yeah, wonderful.
Ready.
So, probably the best place to begin is how you met Rudy. I know that you weren't looking for a dog or a pet, and it was an unexpected connection. So, talk to us about that a little bit. You also said it was during a very chaotic season in your life.
Yeah, I did not grow up with dogs, wasn't looking for dogs. I was working in a high-performance environment in New York City at the time, so really intense, fast-paced life. And I was actually in an argument with someone at the time driving in a car, and we had just stopped along the side of the road as we saw this like a puppy experience place. And we kind of stopped randomly just to diffuse the tension, like puppies are supposed to make people happy. And so it really was, I was in this argument and we stopped. And as soon as I walked into the store, Rudy locked in on me, and it was like his mission to choose me. And he basically was, 2-pound little dog in this glass container, and his sister was behind him, and he was kind of using her to catapult and jump up and down. He was kind of just like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I picked him up, and, he relaxed in my arms, and I was just like, okay, but I'm not looking for a dog. So this is nice. Let's go. We got things to do. And somehow about an hour later, I was in pure shock because I was walking out the door carrying this 2-pound dog. The person I was with had bought him for me in my name. So I was truly in shock and disbelief. And basically, my life completely changed after that. But yeah, definitely wasn't looking for him. And so then I took him to the vet the next day, and he basically had an ulcer in his eye. And so our journey together really became started with caregiving and responsibility and, medical treatments right away.
So he had a healing crisis. This wasn't as early as you're talking about now, but he
Right.
said that it really opened you up to your own deeper work in healing. Talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Yeah. So at the time, my dad had already had a stroke, and I saw a lot of things with that. But really, it was Rudy's healing crisis. He had another teacher of mine, Dr. Gudal Kaba, had just texted me out of nowhere, and to go get Rudy's blood work checked. And it was weird to me because he didn't have any symptoms, but I was like, okay, I trusted her. So I took Rudy to the vet, and, blood work's it's not cheap. So the vet was kind of looking at me like, why are you here? And I was like, just run these blood panels because I trusted her. And as soon as we got back from the vet, as soon as we walked into the apartment, Rudy started vomiting and throwing up and had diarrhea and all these things. And he was just really, really sick. And he wasn't showing signs, when I went in there. And so the vet had closed. It was a really late hour. And basically the next morning, I got a call from, and the whole night Rudy was just really sick, critically ill, and it's like a system was shutting down. And I could tell Dr. Goodell was prepping me for that he was going to be gone. And I'm like, he's not even 4 years old. But do your stuff and work with him and stuff. And so and the vet called me, and the vet actually just asked, is he still alive? And so they told me to come back in, and basically, we'll do what we can for him and things like that. And I had called another healer that I worked with, and he came in and told, opened, because it was the weekend, and he said that we can come in. And so I brought Rudy in, and at that point I was literally just he was just kind of limp, because he was, because the vet was kind of like, well, we'll make him comfortable, we can just, we'll just wait for him, we'll do what we can. And so when I carried him into the other healer, he took what looked like a flashlight to me and just kind of went up and down the back of his spine, and basically kind of just put this light on him. And Rudy just would turn, and he was responding to it. And all of a sudden this poop came out of him, and I immediately went into, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, and tried to clean up, and they shushed me off. And Rudy just he was taken to it, and then basically shook, and then looked at me. He got up, and he looked at me, gave me a look, and then looked at the healer, and basically started rah, 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 and started talking to him. And I was just in shock, and the healer was just kind of nodding. So I sat down and I'm like, what did he say? I just couldn't believe what was happening. And he just proceeded to tell me things about our situation, what Rudy was saying, that was going on, and that no one else could have known, and so and at the time it was just Rudy was absorbing. I worked in a lot of healing, spaces, and he was just absorbing all that. And so my brain did not understand any of that. And so basically Rudy wasn't taking the medicine and everything that the vet had given us. Basically his pancreatitis levels were beyond, just off the chart, not okay.
Terminal.
And that's why they were like, is he still alive? And basically, he wasn't taking any of the medicine. So his systems were shutting down essentially. So this healer was telling me all these other things to do for him, and that Rudy wanted just to be a dog and things like that. But the fact that he walked out of there, with strutting a little bit, and so I couldn't believe that, but I immediately went back to the vet and then had them run the labs again.
Yes.
And they couldn't believe that he, it was just a matter of hours that he was fine. And then the next day, his labs came back perfectly fine. So it was like nothing had even happened, so it defied all this medical stuff. So I think that first crisis with Rudy really allowed me, it wasn't my dad's healing, it wasn't my own stuff. It really was opened up to things I couldn't explain. And just to kind of, I would witness these things around Rudy. And that was just kind of like the beginning of it. And then with the distance healing come in, he would go to Dr. Goodall's picture, before, something was going on. And then she would, text me and tell him all the stuff that was going on. And so years later, I found out that her and, some other elders at the Native American church were actually doing these rituals and ceremonies for him. I didn't find that out at the time because my brain didn't understand it. So I was just kind of like, do your thing or whatever. But it was in different sources that these things would come together, because I feel like I needed to see that too. So it really just challenged, my perception of things. But he really just it was his healing itself that opened me up to it.
Does Dr. Goodall work with animals specifically?
I feel Rudy's her, her primary contact. And so, but in a way, she's not boxed into she does so much more. So it's not majors. But funny enough that when I've taken Rudy to other animal communicators or, things like that, they've all said something to along the lines of that Rudy's blocking them. And they're just kind of like, and it's like, of course, he has. So Dr. Goodall is our, both very important person, but I joke that that's Rudy's chosen spiritual contact, and I just coordinate the logistics. But he has his person. And so, her work, she works with people and stuff, but obviously I've been so blessed and lucky. They have a very special bond. But she's really been there for this journey with him.
If I had not witnessed this with my own eyes, with my friends, I would have some difficulty understanding what you're saying. But I do have very dear friends who had a Shih Tzu who was 18, and it was time for him to be put to sleep. And they were gifted a session with an animal intuit who was like a foreign language translator. She translated, his name was Jake's words into English. And Jake then told the group of us who were listening his life with them. And he'd been with them for 17 years. And he talked about incidences where he had to inject himself to help people with their grief, and times when he acted silly because levity was needed, and it was uncanny. I mean, it was just, and I'd been with the family for 35 years, so I knew everything that he was talking about. And it was remarkable. I told that story to my proprioception therapist. She said, "Oh, I have somebody from my horse." And therefore, I can find out exactly she does proprioception for people 10 months out of the year. And for 2 months now, she's at a horse farm donating her time to help with horses. And so there's somebody there who translates what the horses need into their owners' ears, who speak English. It's remarkable. I mean, it's just remarkable.
And I have a science-based background and very rational, very practical. But again, and I was open to all that stuff, of course,
Yeah.
But it was just witnessing it in person. There were just no words. There were things that you can't explain. So that became very commonplace, I would say, with Rudy. Even after, we left New York. So my dad survived a universally fatal stroke, and we left New York and Wisconsin. And so now I'm kind of in this place where I understand that Dr. Goodall can do these things, and, the different, things I'm more open to it. But there was another time where Rudy got sick again, and the emergency room was just flooded. This is during COVID. And so 4 dogs went in right before him. And so they weren't making it. So they just couldn't get to Rudy. And so Rudy became critically ill again through the night because he just couldn't be seen. And that for me was the second shift for me, that I was actually watching him in pain, helpless, and couldn't do anything. And when I reached out to Dr. Goodall, to kind of, at this point, I'm like used to her doing her magic. She said that she was being blocked from it. She would try to minimize the symptoms best she could, but she was blocked from it. And that I really was not prepared for, or just, I couldn't even accept, just watching him in pain. And so the second part of it was that I know that you work with these healers in India as well. I was also had just newly met this healer in India through advisory services, and they allowed us to do these special empowerment requests. And I hadn't done it yet. I really I believed it, but I really didn't understand what the whole process was. But I knew that they were supporting us, and so they would say, whenever you need us, reach out. And so it was, and I hadn't up to that point. So that was the moment when Dr. Goodall was late at night, and she was kind of like, "There's nothing I can do. I'm with you guys, but we can't do anything." And watching Rudy in pain, I was literally on the floor, just unbearable, watching him cry and suffer. So I send them an email in the middle of the night, and because of the time difference,
Yes.
responded immediately, and they said to me, Rudy's going to be fine. Just promise to make a donation to this pet temple in Kerala. And I was like, what? Like, because I looked at him like, what do you mean he's going to be fine? And at this point, I've had other experiences, right? I was not used to it. But it was very like nonchalant, and it was immediate response. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll make the pet donation, whatever it needs, to like make it work. And as soon as I hit send, again, Rudy looks at me and just completely relaxes and goes to sleep. And further, I went to sleep. Like we hadn't slept in, and so the both of us went to sleep for the few hours, and then woke up to the emergency room making space for us. So we got him in, and he was, they intervened, and it was okay. But it was one of those extreme moments where it was the moment I sent the email and was kind of like, yeah, okay.
Wonderful.
Like,
Miracles.
Yeah. So that opened me up to another level of that.
Were you yourself involved in healing at this time, or did it influence you to work with other people?
Oh yeah, no,
not just animals.
I was being trained in all these modalities, and I kind of
I got it.
I had such amazing access to teachers teaching me stuff that I fully didn't believe in. Like I was just like, great, whatever. So that's why I think I just had to have these types of experiences, because it just, it was witnessing Rudy's healing miracles and the journeys that he had, or the experiences that got me to a place where I could slow down enough to, really understand what my own healing journey looked like. Yeah. Because I had dedicated most of my life to helping others heal, right? But ironically and profoundly, Rudy's been the one who's taught me the biggest lessons about healing for myself. So
also your dad. I mean, I know that he was very involved in your father's care. Would you tell us about that? What happened?
Yes. So my dad survived a universally fatal stroke. And basically, the day he had a stroke, I left New York and was with him in Wisconsin in the hospital for 2.5 months. And they couldn't explain, his progress and things like that. But I was with him for 2.5 months, and Rudy was a big part of that. Rudy was, so for the years, my dad, during his recovery and, hospice care and through his passing, it was about 7 years, I want to say. So whenever I would leave him, he would regress. And so my mom asked me to move back in 2019, or 2020, around COVID, basically just to help, monitor him and stuff. So Rudy and I left New York. It was supposed to be temporary, obviously, and COVID happened. And so that was another major life transition. But Rudy then shifted from New York City performer dog to this softer environment with hospitals and, hospice. And so he really had this ability to soften grief, and anyone who walked in, he basically was, Rudy was part of my dad's journey more than anyone else in the family, aside from me. So we were the ones carrying that. And so Rudy would basically obviously bring joy and care to my dad and peace to my dad, especially through hospice, just laying on the bed with him and just a quiet presence. But also I think the nurses and the staff there too, like Rudy was allowed to be in the ICU, and everybody knew him.
Of course he was.
but he just had this quiet presence, that could just, beyond words, like just bring comfort to people, and I think that is, it's obviously it's much needed. It's different than just the therapy animals, but it was just a whole nother level of that because the amount of caregiving and just what it takes out of you. I think when I was carried from my dad's stroke, I was daughter, just kind of in task mode and coaching and, like that. But when Rudy would get sick himself, that was a whole different, shift with it. So, yeah. So,
I have another friend who rescues dogs, and she's been my friend for 27 years. So I've seen a lot of, and they're older when she gets them. So I've seen a lot of dogs come in and then
yeah.
they are mercifully put to sleep when they become too ill to live with any quality of life. So talk a little bit about the emotional and financial expense of caring for an older dog.
Yeah. And that was, so right after my dad passed away, it was another, transition chapter and things like that. And again, Rudy's, aging. He's a senior dog. And so he's got a significant amount of health issues. He's got collapsed trachea, collapsed respiratory system, pancreatitis, luxating patellas, dental stuff. So before I got pet insurance, it was just anything that would happen to him. It was like weighing the financial, it's no different than, you're for a family member or something. But the also part was, the other part is that, it comes up, and just how they respond to it or not. So he gets, he's normal, the vet stuff, but then fortunate to do a lot of holistic treatment. So he would get acupuncture, he would get laser, because he would respond to that. He would do herbs and things like that. He would respond to those types of treatments. My acupuncturist, I had to schedule separate sessions because he was like, eye appointment and stuff. But Rudy's just from the start always responded to different emotional and healing environments like that. And so, but there's a cost to it. And so, yeah, Rudy's been my biggest line item, but it's just that it comes up, because it's just, you don't even think twice then. You just want to, if there's something available that they're responding to, you want to just keep doing that. And for him with his collapsed trachea, again, they medically couldn't understand how he was functioning because it was completely collapsed. And so when you do his blood work or labs, they're, it shows a different picture. But again, with the acupuncture and these herbs or this light therapy was, and the prayers were, like doing the job. So, at that point, I don't care what it is because as long as it gets the result. But again, it just shifts. It comes so fast. So I've had to adapt my life, obviously, and he's helped me slow down with that. But yeah, you get to a point where it's not necessarily just the cost, of it. It's like because of what you get back in it. But yeah, that was, it's a different chapter when they're senior dogs because you have good days, you have bad days. You just don't know what you're getting. So
when you travel, who takes care of him? Where does he stay?
Well, not like when I go to India, I would leave it at my mom's house. And my niece would take care of him because he requires medicine like 7 times a day, oral medicine. He's on a lot of meds. And so my mom's not really great with doing the medicine, but she's a steady presence there, and he likes hanging out with her at the house. But yeah, it's administrating the medicine has been hard. So my niece was one who can kind of do that. But and he's not like a typical, I can't put him in daycares because he's slowing down.
No.
Yeah. So they call him Mufasa because he would go on the top of the playground area and he'd be like, you can come to me. No, you stay over there, and just directs it. So as he's older now, it's like I just need someone to hang out with him, but it's hard watching him slow down a bit for sure. It just changes the scope of stuff. And again, it's like it's hard to prepare for stuff because at the moment's notice, I could be throwing up or doing something, so
right.
Yeah, just changes things.
Big responsibility. And so tell us, how has he changed your whole life with healing and responsibility and slowing down? And you are in a rhythm with him. and you adopt to whatever is happening with him.
Yeah.
He's your partner.
Yeah. And again, I wasn't looking for it, but
I know.
I would say, yeah, he actually was in palliative care last year, and so it was really, and the healers and everyone had kind of, you know, they were more working on me to accept that, because I just was like, no, keep doing, what you need to do. So after my dad died, and I was in this transition phase, and he was getting sick, I think it was the first time, obviously, of this is what an aging dog looks like, but the demands of that, and it forced me to, really slow down and not just rely on all the miracles we've had, and to enjoy those quiet moments. That's not big dramatic things. It's these quiet little moments. And so when I first really, and I'd had to administer all the medicine and, the appointments, and it wasn't just doing anymore. It was just being present with it, and bearing witness. And that opened a whole nother, capsule within me. I just don't think I had ever slowed down enough to really just even reflect on what our journey has been together. But I also realized my nervous system, or just years of high paced go, 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 at my nervous system and survival based, living, just did not know how to relax and just, kind of be. So I would say that Rudy really changed my, well, and then he did get another miracle after. And so he's with this chapter. But to answer your question, I really am more conscious of slowing down right now, enjoying this time that we have. And I really think, in reflecting on it, he has changed my life from the inside out. He slowed my pace down. The decisions I make of how I live my life, what matters most, where I spend my time, all of those things. I really don't think I would have learned in any other way had it not been for Rudy. So, and again, just how I receive love is a whole different notion with him. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
It's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful journey. I know that it's impacted your life for now and forevermore.
Yeah.
What would you say? What would you want our listeners to know from this conversation today, which has been incredible, Jamie? Thank you.
I would just, obviously animals have such an important impact on our lives, just as people, just as family members. And so obviously, your show is about, love and money and what we would do, how we spend, for, people that we love. And I would say, just given my experience with caretaking and all the grief and the healing around that, it took me a while to not look at numbers, with it. Like I said, he's a big budget item for me. But to kind of just erase that and understand that the time and the effort and the energy that you're putting in and investing into, like caretaking for someone, or if they have special needs or whatever it is, that investment is also what's given us something more than words can even be put into at that time, and it's a deepening of the love and, a special place for healing with that. So.
And you said early on something about he chose you, and there was a reason for that. And you've given him everything he asked for and more.
About 13.
And and I know how many years? 13
Yeah,
years.
13 years. That, like I said, he clearly chose me. I had no interest in it, But again, now slowing down, I really understand that was for there was a higher purpose to that, right? Our bond wasn't companionship. It was really just a higher level of connection. And I really truly feel like it was to get me to this place in my own healing journey. And I wouldn't have learned that any other way had it not been for him, and the process and the experience. So,
well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. You've given us all a lot to think about. I'll think about this for a long time today. It's incredible. And all of us can relate other people or circumstances or animals who have that kind of an impact. They come into your life, and it's definitely for a purpose.
yes.
And sometimes it doesn't make any sense at that time. Sometimes it transcends all logic, but then you learn that there's a gift. There's always a gift in tragedy as well as joy.
Yeah. And I think that's to know it cognitively, right? To hear people say that, but to really experience it and embody it too is different. Um, I had that understanding too, but when you're such in the depths of like tragedy or loss or grief, you can't see that. And so that's for those quiet moments of just like, the quiet love or, the efforts that you're doing to care for someone, is I think what really that's about as well,
I agree. This has nothing to do with animals or pets, but last year I did a ketamine assisted. I don't even drink in my bone remodeling plan, and no caffeine, no alcohol, but I did a ketamine assisted neurofeedback meditation retreat. It was 5 days. And they did a brain map the first day we were there. And then every day we'd go into the pod with our electrodes on, and they would give us exercises to do. And they could tell how we were handling the exercise by the step that we were on. A little bell would ring when it was time for a new step. So there were a lot of exercises on forgiveness.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I had a 50-year-old forgiveness exercise that I took on with my first husband, who abandoned us 3 days before our severely handicapped son's first operation. He sailed away. We never saw him again. So it couldn't have been at the worst time, just as you were talking about, like you were in chaotic situation. It couldn't have happened the worst time. But so I went on with my life, and I didn't carry it around. I don't carry grudges. I don't look back very much. I live pretty much in the present. But at the end of the act of forgiveness, and we had to go through that, we role played it. We're all alone in our pods, so we could say it out loud or to ourselves. And I went through I forgave him. And I also learned in that week that forgiveness is not about the other person at all. It's about yourself, and it's unburdening yourself of the weight that recrimination and anger has. So we went back in the debriefing room, and so I said to Lisa, our facilitator, I said, I forgave Terry, but I can't find the gift. She turned around in her seat. She said, "What?" I said, "I don't see the gift in that." She said, "Barbara, that," and then she used a really big expletive, a really big one. "Loser husband of yours gave you the biggest gift in the world because he left you to build this fantastic life for yourself that you have built." And I went, "Oh, yeah." She said,
Yeah.
"Because you never would have left. You're codependent. You would have stayed in a miserable situation forever." So what you're saying today has exactly the same impression on me as I got in that lesson, that life is just so full of surprises, and we have to be open. We have to listen for them.
Yeah, I agree
You could not possibly have known what Rudy was going to do for you
yeah, and
as a
like
result of your doing for him. And look at, you have you have clarity now. You're very clear about the whole thing, as I am about that 50-year-old experience.
yes, but like you said, the circumstances come about, I really think, to push us to those places because we're not gonna do that ourselves, right?
No, I
And
know.
it's interesting you talk about forgiveness. I really struggled with that a lot with a lot of family dynamics and things, and after what you're going through, because you're so busy surviving it or doing it or, just rebuilding whatever it is. And so even with forgiveness with Rudy's, a lot of his health issues came about because of the environments he was in. And I just felt so responsible for that, but knowing that it's not my fault, and it's so having to go through this forgiveness process again without, the exercises of speaking or whatever, it was actually with Rudy just looking at him and kind of just knowing, like in those unspoken words and stuff that I had no idea how to, really let those things go. And
Yes.
so I sympathize those types of magnetic, huge blow ups, I feel have to happen to those of us. Help us awaken a little bit more because we're not going to do that on our own,
No, exactly. Exactly. Well, we have many lessons to learn, and they come from unknown places. And as you said, it surprises us. We can't even explain it some of the time. We don't need to explain it, but it's just been. I just love it that you came and shared today, because it's meant a lot. It's a wonderful story, and it has applications in every part of our lives. And I'm so glad I know you. Thank you so much for being here.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Barbara, truly.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I wave, I make him wave, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Good boy. Good boy. I mean 30. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, long 30.
3 0. 3 0. You on the other hand,
Are you talking to her? Sorry for interrupting.
Shri Surnagarshana Bhairavaya Namah. Hari Om Narasimhaya Swaha. Hari Om Narasimhaya Swaha. Hari Om Narasimhaya Swaha. Hari Om Narasimhaya Swaha. Hari Om.
Thanks for joining me on Love and Money with Barbara Treadwell. I hope today's conversation gave you something to think about as you navigate your own financial and personal journey. You can also visit barbaratreadwell.com to learn more about my work and connect with me. See you on the next episode.
The views expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the opinions of Barbara Treadwell, LLC, and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities or services mentioned herein. Unless otherwise specified, show guests are not securities licensed or affiliated with Barbara Treadwell, LLC, or Osaic Wealth. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should only be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.